Hey everybody, it's Greg Rice. We're in downtown Providence. We're on the 6th floor of the Turk's Head building, not the 13th floor, which we went to by accident.
It's unlucky.
We thought you were on the 13th floor. But Zach Levesque, branch manager of Northpointe. How you doing, brother?
What's up? Nice to see you.
Happy to be in your new podcast
Amelia.
space.
Thank you. Thank you. The
Emilio.
Power Studio. We call it the Power Studio.
The Power
That's beautiful.
Studio.
They did a nice job.
Thank you.
Killer.
Thank you.
And Emilio DeSpirito, co-owner of Angle and Volkers in East Greenwich. Thank you, gentlemen. This is my first time having a threesome professionally.
Just like that, we start off.
And we're getting rolling. And what I want to talk to Zach about first is how this crazy market is affecting lending. And I asked you before, and you said really it's not. Is that the case still?
Well, you know, it is affecting, I think, most lenders, but you know, obviously when the marketplace changes, you have to adapt, and the strongest people, the strongest companies figure out a way to adapt in the short term. You know, nobody could foresee the pandemic and also what would happen after the pandemic. I mean, I think, you know, Emilio would attest to this too. Whenever this started 18 months ago, nobody knew what was going to happen, and most people thought the reverse would, that home purchases would stop. Mm-hmm. People would stop, like the world would stop, because it seemed like the world was stopping at that point. The opposite happened. Less properties came to market, there's less inventory, and we've seen such a jump in home values over the last 18 months. And although we've seen a little bit of a pause recently, we're still in a seller's market. Interest rates are still low. And although inventory is coming back, it still is low historically compared to other times.
We were just at a lunch, and you said an amazing statistic. What was it? 3 times longer on the market now?
More. So the average or the median single-family home in Rhode Island sold in 11 days on market. Okay.
Wow.
Now,
As of when?
that was, I pulled, oh God,
A couple months ago.
don't quote me. I think I was just doing like a 120-day pull,
Yep.
right? Okay. You know where it's at right now, the past 30 days for active under contract? 37 days. 37
Wow.
days. Triple. Boom.
And that's still historically lower, right?
Well, anytime you're under 150 days on market, it's
Yeah.
a seller's market.
Yep.
So we're still in the seller's market, but I think that time frame is going to actually tick up.
Yeah.
Here's one indicator, right? We've got 5 active listings right now in Warwick.
Yep.
You couldn't hold an active listing in Warwick, okay?
And 5 seems crazy
Yeah.
low, doesn't it?
Yeah. So 5. That's
But
just
that's actually up.
my team, right? No, that's just my team. We got
Oh,
the
okay.
5, right? So, but they're sitting, dead, no
Yeah.
traffic. These are first-time home buyer, second-time home buyer
Yeah.
price ranges, guys. Warwick, the hottest market in the state. I'm not saying things are crashing, but there's a pause. I
Yeah.
think consumer confidence is shaken. I think inflation's on its way up, and I think that we're going to see things take a little bit of a turn.
Yeah, I think inflation's a big factor. I think, you know, people are tied to all, you know, watching the news, and it's always, you know, news is always gloom and doom.
Yeah.
But, you know, even though rates are low, we've seen an appreciation in home prices. The borrowing costs are still lower, right, with lower interest rates. So although, you know, these mortgage payments might seem affordable to people, to your point, that pause could be related to, hey, what happens when I get in the house and I have to heat it?
Thank
You know, oil prices are going up. I have to buy food. I have to send my kids to school. So maybe it's like almost like the after effect that's holding people back. Well, I can see that, but what does inflation look like in 6 months? What do prices of goods look like in 6 months? It's a very good point that you make. And, you know, the question will be, obviously we've seen, I don't know if we've seen a high. It seems like we kind of have, right, in the Ocean State and around as far as real estate values, you know, especially in the Ocean State. It's almost like who's going to blink? Are sellers going to start lowering prices? And when you tell me that in a short period of time, days on market tripled, almost quadrupled, to me that means buyers said, hey, I'm good. I'm not overpaying anymore.
Yep.
And it's almost like a reactive piece where our seller's going to listen, and our realtors potentially going to advise sellers for properties that are sitting on the market to actually start lowering prices.
Yeah.
I'm not advocating towards that. I'm not a realtor, but you know, what do you think about? What's your opinion on that? Those terms of thinking, like, do you think it's time for some of these listings to maybe potentially be reduced?
I do.
Price-wise.
I gotta say, I think that's refreshing coming from somebody in mortgages that you've got the insights Yeah, legit.
Round of applause
You
for
got
that.
you could.
I read a
list
lot.
houses.
I watch.
Restraint.
Yeah.
I've got enough on my plate. I can't be a realtor today. No, I appreciate that. Though.
But really, you hit the nail on the head,
Yeah.
Zach, because we're having conversations with our clients before they list their properties.
Yeah.
We're saying, hey, listen, here's the indicators, okay, where things are, we think here, and they're going to either do this or down.
Yeah.
You don't want to chase the market. Right?
Yeah.
And too many sellers feel, well, my neighbor sold their home in 3 days for $40,000 over asking. My hairdresser said
Yeah.
I should be listed here.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah.
So we have these talks with them, and a lot of our sellers are chasing the market and losing money. One of our clients lost over $100,000 without taking our advice.
Yeah.
$100,000.
Yeah.
$100,000. So the way you gotta do it. And Barry Habib, he's a famous economist, housing
Mortgage
economist,
guy.
mortgage guy, great guy. And he basically said, in times like this, you want to actually price the house a little bit lower than the fair market value.
And then maybe get a little bit of a bidding war, go to highest and best.
That's it. That's it. I actually own a property with my brothers in Warwick.
Yeah.
Right? Actually, it was a private deal, and it got funded. And it's a great property. We're about to flip it, and it's listed at $425,000. I'm thinking about dropping the price to $399,900.
Yeah. Some people want to test the market too, and the reality with property, and it's hard to. I'm not trying to categorize anybody, but not everybody has a bunch of money sitting in stocks, 401ks, checking, savings. And to a lot of people, a lot of homeowners, a lot of their net worth is involved in connected to their home equity, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're selling it and, a realtor saying, hey, it's worth 400, well, in their head, what does it actually hurt them to test the market, to go out there and, hey, maybe I'm going to get an extra it's $25,000 in my pocket. I could do A, B, C, D, and E. I could do this with my kids. I could go on a vacation. So I think that is a lot of the thinking process. But I think until maybe the news starts to change a little bit and we stop hearing it's hot, it's hot, it's hot. When you're selling your property, that's the last thing you've heard for the last year.
Right.
Yeah.
So until that rhetoric and that conversation changes, whether it's news, whatever reports, I still think it's going to probably be hard to get, and I think you're going through it, to get people to actually listen and say, it's not going to sell for what it did even 3 months ago.
Yeah.
Like 3 to 4, and that's what's crazy about this market. It's so fluid. 3 months ago, if we sat down and had this conversation, it would be a completely different conversation.
Oh yeah.
It would be like, you wouldn't be talking about lowering prices, because we were at a point 4 or 5 months ago where we're like, wow, our price is going to continue to go up. But, I think inflation is a big piece. I really do. That inflation conversation wasn't there 6 to 8 months ago. Right. Now it's all anybody talks about.
I was out to eat at a restaurant in East Greenwich. We'll leave them nameless.
It was $600 for 2 people. No,
well, check this out. So the person that's been running this restaurant for 10 years,
Yep.
It's a nice restaurant. Everyone knows it. They go there in East Greenwich. Their costs are up 38%.
Food costs. Yeah.
The table linens.
Yeah.
The paying people to wash the table linens. This, that, everything else, 38%.
Yep.
Right.
Wow.
So this stuff on the news, they're talking 5.5%, 6% inflation. That's
It's not
false.
accurate.
That is so false.
That doesn't even make sense.
Wait until Christmas time. And I'm not one of those people that like to spread panic or anything. No.
Freak out, everybody.
Here comes the panic.
However, I mean, I really see a massive devaluation of the dollar,
Yeah.
and that's why things are shooting through the roof.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, rents are going up, everything.
Everything.
There was, and this holiday season is going to be very interesting, because there's already reports that if you don't order your stuff now for Christmas,
Yeah.
you're not getting anything. Regardless of Amazon, if Amazon can't stock,
Yeah.
they might be
Right.
able to deliver in 7 seconds by a drone that flies warp speed over your house soon. But if they don't have the products, they can't sell them. So I
Maybe
think there's
it's-
a little reckoning coming too.
And maybe it's the hundreds and maybe over 1,000 container,
Yeah.
ships that are stuck out there. Maybe it's
Yeah, I think
by
it's
design.
I think it's a combination of a lot of things, and and the housing market is involved with almost like, if you think about it, so many things can affect the housing market.
Mm-hmm.
Inflation, rates, supply, everything.
Small
Geopolitical
businesses.
issues.
Small businesses don't have anything to put on their shelves. Twigs Florist, Bobby Bach, my good friend, Bobby Bach, the man, right? So he has to order stuff for Valentine's Day and Christmas now.
Mm-hmm.
He's ordering stuff.
I know a friend
Yeah.
that opened a coffee shop. It's being opened now, and they can't get cups.
Cups?
Think about that.
That's nuts.
Cups, I mean, how hard is it to produce a cup? No offense to any cup producers out there, but like, I'm talking a regular, just, plastic or paper coffee cup.
Wow.
That's scary.
They're out of
When you hear
business.
things like that, it's scary. You have to factor in seasonality too, right? In our business, it always slows down going into the holiday season. People get busy. So, I think we're experiencing this change and shift at a time where we usually start to slow a little.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the true test is going to be what happens now leading up to the spring, and what does that spring market look like? And although nobody wants to admit it, interest rates are everything.
Mm-hmm.
Inflation, all these factors are important, but if we saw an uptick of even 1% in interest rate, it would have awful ramifications on the real estate market.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the feds know that. I think feds is in the Federal Reserve.
Yep.
I think they know that, and there's still a lot of pressure to keep interest rates down. But that's the elephant in the room.
Mm.
If rates do go up, that shift back from sellers market to buyers is going to happen extremely quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So I think everybody in this room, and potentially everybody listening that's interested in real estate, does not want rates to go up. Obviously, it doesn't really benefit anybody in the real estate industry or people trying to buy a home.
Yeah.
If rates go up, less people buy, you'll probably start to see values decrease
Mm-hmm.
because people can't afford it, right?
Higher rates, more jobs.
Higher rates, more jobs, but I'm talking about the specific real estate market.
Right.
Higher rates, affordability. Somebody's buying power can change exponentially with a 1 point increase or decrease in rate.
What is that number? Do you know?
Well, I mean, it depends on purchase price and income, but put it this way, and this is not a factual. I'm going to give almost like a abstract of what could potentially happen with, let's say, a rate increase. These are not specific numbers, but let's say, for instance, somebody who's buying a $350,000 house. We pre-approved them. Let's say we pre-approved them 3 months ago when rates were at 3%.
Mm-hmm.
There's a chance that they don't qualify if rates go up to 3.75. Some transactions and some pre-approvals are that close. When interest rates go up, it does affect people's pre-approval ability.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody, but people that are on the cusp of qualifying or not, they could be affected. What do you think, Greg?
I don't know.
I could go on and on. I'm just trying not to hijack your podcast.
All I have to do is raise my rent. If
Yeah.
I ever have an issue, if I ever can't qualify, or I have such a leverage to be able to control my own market
Yeah.
by just $50 increase times 1,000 tenants.
Yeah.
It's like
Mm-hmm.
that power, it enables me to be flexible.
Yeah.
And equity, you grab it when it's there, like now, and if it's not there, you buy. So
Yeah.
it's like, I don't mind wherever the
Yeah.
poster goes.
Well, you've seen rents increase too, and I work with we've known each other for a long time, and there's realtors and there's mortgage people that haven't been through multiple market
Right.
switches and turns, but there will be one. There's
Mhm.
always a reckoning
Mhm.
when something goes up exponentially in a short period of time. Usually there's a retraction. So I think we all know at some point it's coming, and it's probably going to come when rates start to go up.
Mm-hmm.
If and when they start to go up, we know they will. The question is when. But a lot of people ask me about interest rates and my predictions, and I try to stay away from predictions because we're obviously in unprecedented times right now with the pandemic, and the pandemic was really the reason that everything turned on its axis, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think all of us that have been in this industry for a long time know the market ebbs and flows.
Mm-hmm.
And there will be a little bit of a market reckoning. When does it happen? I don't know.
There's an opportunity there, though.
Oh yeah, I mean there's opportunity on both sides of
Yeah.
both sides of the coin, right?
There's opportunity anytime things change at all. So
In one of my favorite books, Art of War, Sun Tzu,
great book.
in chaos there's also opportunity.
Mhm.
That's a really good life lesson.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why there's a lot of people that did really well in the last year and a half. There's a lot of people that did not do really well.
Mm-hmm.
There's always opportunity, to your point. You just have to You got to sniff it out.
Take your
And you have to take
enemies-
risk.
Take your enemies' wagons and cattle, and treat the enemy
Rancher
well.
Emilio.
Yeah.
Rancher.
Yeah. What would you do differently if you could rewind before COVID as far as your branch management? People management.
What do you mean? If a year and a half ago, if I knew it was coming?
If you knew it was coming, how would you play it differently?
So the biggest issue that busy lenders, we're a busy lender. There's other great lenders in the state, around the country. If I had a crystal ball, I would have doubled our operations prior, because as soon as the pandemic hit, for the first 20 days, from a lending standpoint, our world stood still. Nobody knew if loans were going to be bought. Nobody knew if they were closing loans today and the person wouldn't have a job tomorrow. It was a very scary, I'm talking 20 days, because everything was like, what is going on? What nobody expected was the drastic reduction in interest rates so quickly and the influx of refinance applications. So, my branch, Northpointe, we do business with you. A lot of realtors around the state. Most of our business is purchase business, somebody buying a home. We also do refinance applications, obviously. But, we've been able to build our brand through efficient purchase transactions. And most of in our circle is our referral partners or realtors. So our focus is purchases. But we had such a short-term influx of refinance applications that we just didn't have the bodies. And any busy mortgage company that tells you differently is just lying. If you were busy going into the pandemic, and for the first 60 to 90 days, you weren't like, oh my God, I'm inundated, then you're just lying. I don't know how you're
This
laughing.
kid's playing footsies with me over here.
Oh, I thought you were playing with me.
I'm trying to be serious over
I know
it.
he's playing with my
But,
I
phone.
wasn't laughing at you.
but I would
agree with you.
I would have doubled operations. We were able to do that, but us along with everybody else was trying to find people to help because nobody could keep up. When you're prepared, we're always prepared, I would say, for about a 25% over capacity, which means, which is a
That's
lot.
huge.
25% jump in business overnight. We can handle it at my branch.
Yeah.
We can't handle 250%.
Is that
that's
where
what it
it
was.
went? 10 times of what?
2.5 to 3 times the amount of business within 60 days.
Yeah, intense.
And guess what happens? It's not just the branch level. There's so many people that are involved in a loan. Appraisers, and we're seeing it now.
Oh yeah.
It's tough to get an appraisal done quickly.
Yep.
It's almost
Absolutely.
impossible. Underwriters. I could have my branch staffed to the hilt. There's not enough underwriters to handle the business. So every company went through the same thing. So that's probably the only thing I would have changed. And I don't think we lost business. We didn't have any transactions that fell apart because of that. But I'm a perfectionist, and we're known for fully transparent, efficient closings. That's what we're known for. We got away for that for a short period of time.
Out of your control.
But it was. I hate to say that.
Yeah.
I'm that guy that's like everything is in your control, but that was like actually out of my control.
Literally out of your control.
So it was hard for a short period of time, and I think every lender that's busy went through that. And listen, it was a tough 6 months. It really was, especially when you're a perfectionist. You want everybody to have a great experience. Great question, but yeah, I would say double my operations staff prior, which would have been easier before the pandemic hit. But nobody knew that was coming.
No.
Nobody.
I remember looking at MLS, watching it.
Yeah.
The amount of listings drop off.
Oh yeah.
And then we were left with nothing.
Well, nobody wanted anybody in their house. How can you list a house?
We were left with nothing but homes that needed work. In those homes, that was the best time to sell those homes.
Oh yeah.
They all
I'll
took
fix
off.
it up.
Yeah. Whatever.
I'll take
There was
it.
610 homes at the lowest.
Which is like, think about that.
Almost 1,500 now on the market.
How many in a normalized market? How many? 2,000?
4,000.
Oh, is that a
Yeah,
normalized?
we
market?
haven't seen a normal market in a while.
In Rhode
here
Island, you're saying?
In Rhode Island, yeah.
Gotcha.
So what's like the average for Rhode Island?
The average I've seen, teeter around 2,500
All
or
right.
so.
So we're still
Half.
40% of where we're normally at.
40% of where we're normally at.
Yeah.
Yep,
And
which
600 is just an anomaly. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, we were down to nothing.
That number scared me, and I remember where I was when I heard that, when we went to our lowest. And at Northpointe we have 17 originators here, right? Most of them concentrate on purchase business.
Yeah.
I've never added it up, but I bet you we had 400 to 500 pre-approvals. People, and that's one, think about that. That scared me. And I don't know what that number is, but I would assume at any given time with 17 people, we probably have 400 to 500 people pre-approved looking for a house. You know, some are 8 months out, whatever. But when we had enough pre-approvals to almost satisfy the market, one branch and one, I mean, that is scary.
Yeah.
That's what scared me. I was like, oh my God.
Well, it's with us. You know, we do 10 open houses with 90 people in there.
Right.
That's 900.
That's a good question, actually. What are you seeing at opens?
Slow.
Traffic, like slow.
Dead.
Wow.
Dead.
Are you serving crumpets?
It must be my marketing, Greg. Like I said.
Well, you guys are what? German? English, German? Your company,
We're
Engels and...
American. I'm American.
No, not you. Engels and Volker.
Engel and Volker started in Germany in '77.
All right, so I'm not wrong.
We
German.
operate. You're correct, but
So-
we operate out of Manhattan.
All right, so Manhattan. So maybe, you know, stop to serve some lattes or cappuccinos at the open houses, you know?
Exactly.
No, but across
So they're
the
dead
state-
across the board.
Yeah, and I say the marketing thing because you know we've always pumped a ton of money.
Yeah,
right.
And the Despirito team was known for marketing, right?
Yep.
I remember one time I took shots with my phone of this decrepit short sale we were doing, and an agent called me and said, I couldn't believe I saw your name on it. Agent I never even met in my life. Yeah, so I mean we've always done the professional photos, all that stuff. Never mind with what we're putting in with a global company. So I joke about the marketing, but you can ask agents all around the state. And this is all price ranges, guys.
Yeah. Which is almost scary because you go from seeing it on the news and 100 people to none.
That's what I'm saying.
That's a little weird.
That's what
It's
I'm
almost
saying.
like Will Smith in that movie. He's running around New York. You know.
Wait, are you talking about Pursuit of Happiness?
No,
Oh, because that was, yeah.
I
That
forgot
was
the
New
name
York.
of it. Great movie though, Pursuit of Happiness.
Love it.
But yeah, that's like scary kind of.
So our boots are on the ground, right? Our feet are on the ground, and it trickles up, right? Then it goes to you guys after. So you guys are still working on stuff that.
Yeah, we
that
don't.
came in.
If we see 60 days past market fluctuation. So
Got you.
if the market stalled 30 days ago,
Yeah.
right? So we're mid-October. We probably wouldn't see it until the beginning of November, the actual, because, you know, a lot of these files went onto contract September.
And it could be seasonality, and either
I think
way,
so-
you're
I think-
still collecting rent.
I think some of that has to do with it. But I also think, you know, I think inflation is a big key. That's all anybody hears. And listen, things are so, regardless of how much money you make, you know, it doesn't mean you need to buy these things.
No.
I was at a restaurant a couple weeks ago in Massachusetts, and the waitress was speaking, and she said, "Oh, the only thing we don't have on the menu is actually the filet." She said, "We're not buying it because like we'd have to charge $64 for," and it's like, and this wasn't a 5-star restaurant; it was a nice one, but that's scary.
Yeah.
They're not even offering steak.
So this restaurant that you went to, right? Did you respect that they did that, or as a consumer, were you upset that you didn't have an expected, you know, dish on the menu?
The way that I look at it, I felt bad for the restaurant.
Got you.
You know, because they have to deal with that. And I don't think it's a greed or a margin play. I think, and she even said, we don't feel comfortable offering it at that price. So I think it was more like not wondering whether people would buy it, but like,
Fairness.
no, I'm all set. I'm not going to charge my clients $64 for something
So kind
that
of like
used to be $35 6 months ago.
going back to you on the restraint that buyers may now have for homes. It might be that same philosophy of like, I'm not going there.
Yeah.
Enough's enough. So maybe people are on both ends starting to develop.
Yeah, I think you got two people, you got a buyer and a seller staring at each other, and who's going to blink? And I think the buyers blink first, right? That's an analogy, obviously. But I think the buyer blink first, and I think it's up to the sellers. You know, I think we're going to see a seller correction. We have to.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you're on the ground more than me with values. Listen, if you're telling me that open houses are drastically reduced, sometimes not even being attended, that is a drastic change from 60 days ago. Maybe 90 days ago, right? 90, maybe even 60. I don't know.
No, even 60, even 30.
Think about
There's
that. What a
lines down the
reversal.
street.
Yeah, we had lines
The
down the
news
street.
was showing up to open houses.
Yeah.
And we'll probably see a little correction, I would assume, and the correction would be in the form of prices being lowered. You know, if things aren't going under contract quickly, I'm not saying they have to do that, but if things aren't going under contract, it seems like maybe some of these listings are too high, right?
They are. So it's one of those
And that's
things.
no offense to anybody listening. I'm not trying to tell realtors how to do their job, but that seems to be the sentiment of buyers.
Well, but it all has to do with how the realtors are pricing the homes. So we were pricing the homes with a little padding because we knew that the market was going up.
Yep.
So you could price it a tad higher, 2, 3, sometimes 5% in hot areas. Now that strategy has to change. It's completely gone. You got to now price it 5% low. Maybe, you know, if you want that same type of bid war type of traffic going in. So I'm not pricing every home 5% low, but you know what I'm getting at.
So it's hard to. We had a run at the till, right? So now it's going to be hard to claw back the methodology that realtors have that are not boots on the ground, pulse on the market, to advise their clients that. So is there going to be a wave of realtors offering a disservice to their sellers
Absolutely.
by still trying to push
Yeah.
too hard and riding the summer's wave?
Yeah, I mean,
won't
there's
take a listing.
But there's always two aspects, right? So you're trying to, as a realtor, you're trying to get, if you're representing the seller, you're trying to get them as much value as they can for their
Right.
asset.
Yeah.
But there's also a timing aspect where you have a conversation, well, this thing might sit for 5 months. Is that worth it to you? Because time is money. So, you know, I think there's a couple pieces to that. And, you know, getting into the mind, your boots on the ground realtor, getting into the psyche of a seller, like I said before, the rhetoric has not really changed, and there hasn't been any major publication or news or, you know, it was all, oh my God, the market's crazy. And then like people stopped talking about real estate, which it seems like they did. So I think, you know, I think people pay attention to the news. They pay attention to shows. They pay attention to Facebook. I think as this communication gets out there, that's going to almost be, hey, I got Emilio telling me this thing's not worth what it was 60 days ago. Now 60 Minutes did a special about real estate and how there's a retraction. You know, not that they need that vindication, but some
Yeah,
people
that's
do.
how- yeah.
You know,
Yeah, of course.
and we're not seeing that rhetoric change, although it has changed. But we're boots on the ground. We're realizing that before anybody
Before
because
the
we're
news
in
does.
it. So we know it's happening, but it's not being talked about on a national level.
It's the same thing as when somebody tells you to invest in something. When the news says invest in this, or a
Oh,
show
yeah.
says invest in this, you're too late.
Or your barber.
You've already missed it. You know.
Nick, Nexus's CEO, would say, if your barber told you XYZ, it's already 6 steps too late.
Charles Schwab, said he pulled out of, I forgot if it was the market. Yeah, I think so. He pulled a bunch of stocks out of the market back in the day because his shoe shiner was telling him
It was
about
hot.
the
Oh,
market.
whatever, yeah.
Being that we're boots on the ground, that we're in the fight every day. Most of the people that talk about it and that put it out there, news, whatever, they're a little behind getting it out there.
Well, of course.
So
They're a month behind.
Yeah, listen, you know, cash in hand. A property is usually somebody's largest asset ever, and people want the most for their money in any market. That's, you know, remember when 10 years ago or whenever, granite became popular. Oh, we have a granite kitchen, and people thought it commanded an extra 40,000. You know, it's just
They still do.
Everybody, listen,
Yeah.
and you can't discount somebody's pride. You have to appreciate that. That's their home. And it's very hard. Like when you factor in how much money you put into your home, sometimes it's hard to make that money back.
Yeah.
And there's their opportunity to make it back. That's their opportunity.
The only.
Maybe their only one.
Yeah.
To make it back.
True, but I mean, then when they sit back, so like I was saying before, I won't take a listing if it's too overpriced, right?
Yep.
I can't because it's doing the client a disservice, you know. And then when their home goes overpriced and then comes down off the market, then they're going to have to list even lower than what was initially said. And you don't want to start chasing the market down.
And on top of it, you know, there could be a contingency where somebody needs to sell to buy. So you don't want to. That's a big piece where, you know, a lot of the buyers that we pre-approve, they have to sell their home to qualify. either for debt to income ratio reasons, not being able to carry 2 mortgages, or they might need the equity for the down payment. So if you're going to list your house and you got to buy something, but you have to sell it before you buy, if you list it too high, that might affect your transaction when you're trying to buy the house.
100%.
If it's priced too high and nobody wants the home at that price level.
It's a complex thing, and real estate is, and why I love it, you know, is because it's always changing, and and every single person's situation is different from the other.
Yeah.
And there's different players involved in almost every, you know, transaction. Personalities. It gets a little hairy sometimes, but I like keeping it together. I like being the glue to keep it together, you know. I'm okay when people are calling me, screaming and stuff. I may get off the phone like, but then I'll put it back together. And I think you do the same thing on your ends too.
We're all professionals, and listen, I tell my wife all the time, I usually have 2 bad days a month. And it usually rings true.
What days are those?
No. I mean, there's just 2.
Change.
It's just a day.
16th and the 21st.
Listen, I'm very good at handling pressure, stress. You know, one of my roles here is to put fires out, right?
Yep.
If they flare up. Some days it's hard, and some days you have a lot of things coming at you. I never show that on the exterior, but if you're doing a lot of transactions, you're involved in them. I think people that are outside the real estate world, it would be good for them to see a picture of some of the days that we have, because it's a lot. And you're dealing with, you're dealing with money, personalities, kids, sellers, buyers, attorneys, and people get emotional. I never get emotional over money or finances. That's me. But not everybody's like that. Emotion comes pouring out in these transactions.
So what's one part of your day-to-day that you wish you could shed?
Probably, I wish I didn't eat at my desk. I wish I had the time to go take a 2-hour lunch.
Go sit and chill.
Like that.
Wow. That's good.
That's why you're eating, you're like, oh, an email. Or,
Me and I'm
text.
dropping stuff, somebody's calling me, texting me, emailing me, walking in my office.
Kind of decompress.
Yeah. No, I mean, you know, I love what I do for sure. But, you know, and Emilio can attest to this, when you started and, you know, you did your first deal as a realtor, you did one deal. You've obviously grown your business. The more transactions you do, the more responsibility, effort required, energy, the more potential issues. Because a lot of the times in our industry, you don't really know the whole picture until it's in front of you. And sometimes delays happen, and a lot of times they happen towards the end of the process, because that's kind of when everything is put together. So that's the most difficult part of our business, in dealing with that and being able to coach people through. And when I have difficult conversations sometimes, and I don't have them often, but if I have a difficult conversation with a client or a realtor or attorney, I take a step back and I never get emotional about it. I never get defensive. I never get loud. I never lose my cool. And the reason I'm able to continually do that is because when a difficult thing happens, I realize, especially if it's a client, this is not their day-to-day. Most people, you know, sell 1-2 homes a year, and I don't have that personal attachment to the transaction like they do. I don't have that personal. I'm doing my job. Obviously, I care about it. I care about them, but I don't have personal emotion about it.
It's impossible.
But you know, I think of that, and it helps me react and deal with that better, because I almost have a affinity towards the client, because I realize how important it is to them. And sometimes, you know, and Emilio can attest to this, a transaction starts to go sideways. And when you're dealing with multiple people, not everybody knows how to handle things professionally. It's our job to corral everybody, get everybody on the same page, keep a level head, and, you know, work together. That's the hardest part of my job, I know, when things get tough, because sometimes they do. And listen, you know, we're probably, at our branch in Providence, we probably have between, on average, 140 to 160 people under contract at any point of the day looking to buy a home. It's a lot of people. A lot of people that you have to keep happy, respond to, facilitate a transaction. And it's almost impossible to do a high number of transactions and not have to deal with issues. I mean, it is impossible. And you're dealing with it. I think everybody, you know, pounds their chest and they want to talk about all the wins they had and how great they are and all that. But, you know, I have no problem saying that there's difficult days and there's difficult transactions.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the hardest part of my job, but you know, I try to focus on being positive, and I feel for the clients, and you know, it's important to care about what you do.
Yeah.
You know, which I do. I care about it. You know, I think that's important for people to hear. It's not all roses.
Yeah.
And, oh my God, this is great, and we're the best, and we have low rates.
Yeah.
Some of these transactions are tough.
Well said, though.
Yeah.
I think anybody can appreciate. You know, I like that you took a second. You thought about what you were gonna say about the. You know, you wish you didn't have to eat. You know, while you were working.
Yep.
And I mean, as somebody that has to do that a lot of times, it resonated with me.
Yeah.
And while we're driving.
Oh my God, I'm doing a lot of things while I'm driving.
That's actually that's one of the things. Actually, that's one of the things I wish I could change too. I wish I didn't have to look at my phone when I drive during the day. That's actually
You
dangerous.
could get a driver.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, you could.
you could.
But I don't like how other people drive.
Yeah, you get an Uber and you're like, you got this? You got this?
I don't like the Ubers.
No,
Yeah.
I'd rather drive. I don't know.
If
I
I'm-
like to
I
have
drive everywhere. I like that.
Control.
Yeah.
We're control freaks.
Where am I going? Yeah.
But if
I
you're
wanna know.
drinking, I love an Uber.
Well, I'm not driving if I'm drinking.
Then you're an Uber.
I'm walking. I'm walking.
Skipping down the road.
Hitchhiking, yeah, absolutely.
So a good friend of mine is Robin Mancini. She is DJ Delicious, Michael Mancini's wife.
Okay, DJ Delicious, interesting.
DJ Delicious. Robin said to me, "Oh, I'm buying a house."
Yep.
And I remember 20 years ago, I was on Park Avenue in Cranston,
Mm-hmm.
and this guy named Zach was at a desk. It was Action Mortgage.
That wasn't me.
Was that not you?
No.
And she's like, now he's in charge of Northpointe or whatever. And I was
Maybe
like,
a different area. It wasn't. No.
Maverick back in the day.
Yeah, I didn't have
what was your
affiliation to that
first?
company.
What was your first job in the mortgage business? What year?
2002.
So you're almost 2 decades.
Almost, yeah.
That's
so I
crazy.
started as
And you're 30 years old, right?
not 30. I wish. I'm 40. I'm an old man.
Not really. 20 years. in
Yeah,
the
listen,
business?
I've seen a lot, and you know, like we talked about before, the market changes. I went through, you know, I started in end of 02. I went through 06, 07, which was the major financial crisis and meltdown. That was the hardest period of my career, because that was like, the pandemic is terrible and it's affected many people, but we've never seen a financial reckoning. I've never seen a financial reckoning like 06, 07. It was awful. The market started to rebound, 2009, 2012, low rates. Then again, I want to say it was around 13, 14, rates kicked up dramatically. And the reason I talk about interest rates a lot is because I saw it firsthand and how not only rate increases, but when things happen quickly, the market reacts terribly. Interest rates went up about a point in like,
Early
and don't
spring,
quote me,
2014
it was a
or 15.
very short period of time. It was
Horrible.
like 10 days, the 10-year.
Water shut
The
off.
10-year treasury is relative. Interest rates usually move with the 10-year treasury, whether it moves up or down. The treasury went crazy and rates ticked up.
Mm-hmm.
My branch at the time, which I ran, was cut into thirds within 20 days.
Wow.
People left, people were let go. Our production was cut, like we were doing 25% of what we were doing within like 2 weeks.
Yep.
And rates didn't go up 2 or 3 points. They just went up 1%, but it was the timing of it. It happened like
So
that.
quick.
Mm-hmm.
So when I talk about interest rates, and I'm not trying to scare anybody, I'm not saying that's going to happen, because there's a lot more financial safeguards in place to kind of combat that. But interest rates are so important and so relative to what's going to happen today and, you know, in the future. And that's why there's so much talk about it, and there's so much pressure on the Fed to keep rates low. The Fed chief, Jerome Powell, has done, in my opinion, a fantastic job since he's been in that position. And hopefully he'll continue to be here, because he's a low rate advocate in difficult times, which we're in. You know, because I get it, and there's so many views on rates and what's good for the economy and not. Ultimately, long term, yeah, it's better for us to raise rates, but now is not the time. I can tell you that.
I have another question. We were at Capriccio's
Yep.
few weeks ago. Me, you, and Matt Bates.
Mm-hmm.
It was close to closing time, and I wanna find out.
Shout out to Sal at Capri Show, by the way.
Sal.
He's my guy.
Great. So I want to know. When we went to order our food,
I know where this is going.
the server said, "Oh, the kitchen's closed
At 9 o'clock.
At 9:00. So Matt, Movement said, "Gosh," and Zach was there. Gosh darn it! You told her to tell us it was closed. Is that the case?
So full disclosure.
Okay, here we go.
Full disclosure. I'm in there. Sal's my buddy. I probably could have done that if I wanted.
I figured.
Right?
It would've been great.
So listen, I've never done that, but I probably could have executed that. In this case, I did not.
Okay.
But it is funny, and leave it to Matt Bates,
to think
who's at Movement. Everybody thinks we're at what I love. First of all, I love Matt Bates.
Great person.
How can you not like the guy?
He's a hard worker. He's a good kid, and I'm not surprised that he thought that I would do that. But anybody that knows me knows that I'm not like that. I'm not a petty. And I think it's important in the conversation when somebody works hard and they do right by their clients, whether they work for our biggest competitor or I respect that person.
Mm-hmm.
I like Matt a lot, and he works hard.
Mm-hmm.
But if he did, mess up and cross me, I would cut off his food supply there. Or maybe he doesn't even get in the place.
There's a $20 cover.
Be nice, man.
I think he's good friends with Sal. Oh, well.
I'm better friends.
All right.
No, I'm just listening. I'm just kidding. But
Fantastic place to eat.
But that was funny. That was really funny.
And then
I was like, how do you? Is that how you guys think of me? You think I'm gonna run into the kitchen and say,
shut it down?
I mean, if that's what people think of me, I need to redo my image.
No, I thought it was funny.
I thought it was funny.
I thought it was like that.
It would have been,
it
would have been. Well, yeah, it would have been funny. But if I see you guys in there again, I'm definitely gonna do something that's joke worthy,
What'd you send over to his table?
Oh, warm milk. We sent
Yeah.
Were you like a half glass?
I don't even. Maybe I took a sip. I don't know. But listen, I like almond milk. So if you would have sent almond milk over,
okay.
just for future reference, you want to play a joke on me?
Dairy free.
Dairy free. I have a little issue with lactose.
Okay.
I wouldn't say I'm intolerant, but I don't.
Doesn't agree.
Semi-intolerant.
Yeah.
I don't even know what that means, intolerant, but yeah, it semi-agrees with me.
All right, Zach. So tell us about On Air at the Turks.
All right, so I'll give you the abstract version. Podcasts are hot, great way to get content out, great way to differentiate yourself. About 6 months ago, I thought that I might want to get into that realm, start a podcast. To this day, I have not started it yet. I'm doing the planning, and the way that I am, I want to plan everything out, make sure it's effective, and make sure the content's good, which is most important. But in the discovery process of researching it, I realized the time constraints, how much time you need to put into it. The fact that there's only 2 podcast studios in the state, or 2 studios that can facilitate anything like this.
Wow.
They cost money,
Mm-hmm.
$100, $125 an hour just to rent them. And I knew that it would be difficult for me to travel. So I said, why don't I look into but doing my own podcast studio that I could use.
Mm-hmm.
So I started to look into that. It was expensive, where do you do it? So I was able to make an agreement with my building owner here, and it's on the same floor as our main office. So it's a stone's throw away from where I sit at my desk. I knew that if it would be close, I would shoot more and I'd create more content. But as I went to set it up, I realized, and the entrepreneur in me, but also, that corporate responsibility piece, knowing how difficult it was for me to set this up, and the fact that it was costly and there's not really any other options, I thought it would be a good idea to offer it to others. And this is not a business where we're renting it out trying to make money.
Right.
This is a platform to get your message out, positive message.
Mm-hmm.
We want this studio to be a platform to get your either individual message, company, organization, if there's nonprofits that want to talk about what they do. So that's what this studio is for. If you have a positive message, whether it's on your company, whatever you want it to be, reach out to me, and you have full use of our equipment, full use of the backdrop.
Nice.
And that's why we said On Air at the Turks. It's a Turks Head building. Although this is a Northpointe podcast that I'm going to do, we didn't market it with Northpointe because we want people to use it. This is not for attention. I'm going to use this for my podcast, but this is goodwill.
Mhm.
You know, it's expensive and very hard to produce a podcast. This is something that hopefully, and others, you know, I want our partners to use it. Obviously, we're sitting in the studio. I want our referral partners to use it. So this is for our partners, anybody out there that wants to get their message out. What I think is important is for this to be a beacon for positivity
And
and promotion and
Yes.
professionalism,
Yes.
right? You know, if somebody wanted to come in here and record something like a song or something to put out, we haven't earmarked anything that we don't want in
Okay.
here, but it's not necessarily
Interesting.
what kind of content, but we want good,
Yeah.
positive messaging content. That's what this should be about.
Engagement.
You know, engagement, yeah,
Yeah.
and education. If anybody's watching and they want to use it, but Bates, you can't use it. So
No Bates. No
You gotta
Bates.
shut the kitchen off on Bates and the studio.
no kitchen, no studio.
Warm milk, half glass.
Get your own jokes.
I was just taking them part with yours.
If you have any questions for me, I don't know why you would. Emilio, Zach, throw them in the comments field below. We'll get right back to you. And gentlemen, once again,
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
thank you very
That
much.
was an awkward handshake. What was that?
Awkward guy.
Yeah, a little bit.
And again,
Good
we're
guy.
in downtown Providence, the 6th floor, not the 13th floor, at the Turk's Head building, on air at the Turks.